The first thing you'll see when you open Camtasia Studio is something called the welcome window. And what that is just this floating box here in the front of the greater project area that gives you some quick controls for getting started with whatever kind of project you're working on. And most notably, you'll see the record the screen option, which we will show here in just a second, what that does is it opens up the screen recording tools so that you can record what's going on your desktop. You can also import media, which will allow you to import different kinds of multimedia as well as pre-recorded Camtasia Studio files. And you can also open up recent projects if you are in the middle of working on something and you just want to quick start that. Let's go ahead and demonstrate what recording the screen looks like. Now that we have gone ahead and chosen to record our screen, you should see a couple of changes happen on your computer desktop right away. The first of which, and most notably, is this box here. This is the selection area, and this might pop out to the actual full dimensions of your screen. I modified this so you could see it, but you can see right away where what is included in that selection area or not, and that's what will actually be recorded when you select record. Anything that's kind of grayed out is going to be excluded. You'll also see this toolbar here, and these are your recording controls. So this is where you can, for instance, decide what dimensions or what area you want to record. If I click full screen, that will pop out to the full dimensions of my monitor. Or if I select custom, I can take a look at the options down here, which vary a little bit depending on what resolution you want to record at or what dimensions. You can do things like lock to a specific application, or you can do a manual selection. It's just a click and drag. If I do this, you could see you could click and drag to whatever dimensions that you wanted. I want to go ahead and select full screen. You'll also see your recording inputs here. The one that you want to be most aware of is here with the audio. You can see that this is enabled because I have a green check mark here. I've turned my webcam off for this demonstration. You could select a webcam there if you had one and you wanted to record yourself speaking. And if you select the drop-down menu on either, it will allow you to choose which input device you would like to use. So if you have more than one, or if you have an internal microphone but you would like to use the external mic that you have, you can select which one is actually being used there. Under audio, I do want to point out here is record system audio. That's enabled by default. That's a selection that you don't have to make. It will be made for you. And what that does is it records any internal audio that's picked up by your computer. That includes things like screen clicks. So when you click your mouse, it will pick up that sound, the sound of your keyboard, YouTube recordings, or if you're playing music and you have your headphones plugged in, it will record that as well. So it will pick up internal sounds on your computer. So that's a default setting. You shouldn't need to change it. Just wanted to tell you what that is because we will see in a second where that appears when we reopen Camtasia Studio. I'm going to leave everything as it is right now. And I want to also point out here, this is the volume marker. If you have your audio turned on, but you don't see those green or yellow lines moving when you speak, it means your microphone's not picking up that audio, or you're just simply speaking too quietly to pick it up. So that is your recording controls. The next thing you would obviously want to do is select what you want to be viewed on your screen. And because I'm doing a most common use case here, I'm going to go ahead and open up my PowerPoint presentation, which is what I'll be demonstrating if I was to record myself narrating a lecture for the second. And I'm going to put this on slideshow mode. And I do want to point out, if I did have this over here on this monitor, it won't be recorded. It won't be included in the recording. This kind of floats out there as its own entity. It's not included in the picture. It's just going to be what else is on your monitor, which in this case is this PowerPoint on the statue of Nike. I'm going to go ahead and select record. And you'll notice that it's going to count down for me so that I know when the recording has started. It gives you a visual cue. And now I know that I'm recording. I'm just going to go ahead and flip through these slides really quickly. These are on the restoration of the Nike of Samothrace race. As you can see, it's being moved at the Louvre. And these are the pictures of it after it had been cleaned. They did this a couple years ago, I guess. That's my presentation. I've recorded my lecture. I'm all done. Now what do? I open my, or remove my camera controls over, and you can see now that I've been recording, it's counting down the duration of the video. So I've been speaking for 45 seconds, and then I can do a couple of things. I can pause the recording, which will simply pause the recording. If I wanted to start over, if I knew that I had flubbed something and I just wanted to ditch what I had recorded and resume from the start, I could click delete. Or if I click stop, what it's going to do is it's going to open a preview box so that I can view what I just recorded. This is the preview window, and what it is a preview of what you had just recorded, and it will actually start playing automatically. The next thing I would want to do, if I was satisfied with this, I'd take a look at my controls down here. If I didn't like it, if I decided that I wanted to re-record, I'd click delete, and it would simply delete and reopen the record your screen toolbar. If I click produce, what it does is that will lead you through producing your video in a format that you can share with other people. Or here under save and edit. If I just select save as, what it's going to do is open up a window where I can save the recorded file somewhere on my desktop. And I do want to point out that this is a .trec. That's not the dinosaur, that's a TechSmith recording file. That's a proprietary file format for Camtasia. And basically what that means is that it will only open and be editable inside Camtasia Studio. These video recordings that you make with the screen recorder are not going to be in a format that will be playable through a regular video recorder. So something like Windows Media Player or QuickTime, iMovie, that kind of thing. You need to process them first, and we will cover that near the end of this webinar. But the benefit of having the TREC file is that you get your raw video, or what would be raw video, without the enormous file size that comes attached with that. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and save this to my desktop. And as you can see, it just closes and leaves me ready for my next bit of recording. Okay, so we've gone ahead, and now that we've recorded our screen, the next thing we want to do is import that clip that we just saved into our Camtasia Studio project. As we just saw in the recording preview, I did have the option to save and edit, and I just chose save as. That's because I wanted to show you what importing media looks like. If I am looking at the application, what I want to select is import media. And what that will do is it will open up my computer hard drive so I can navigate to any location on my computer, and I can select files that I want to import into my project. And it's not any file. Camtasia does restrict to media files, and if I expand this over here, you can kind of see that's image files, audio files, and video files. So you can't import something like a PowerPoint or a Word document, Excel file, whatever the case may be. It does need to be one of your standard image, audio, or video file formats, and that does include the TREC files, obviously. If you did want to import something else into your project, you would need to use the record your screen, the screen recorder, to record yourself or record that particular application and then import it as a TREC file. In this case, I've got a couple of things. You can see them here on my desktop. I have a couple of TREC files, including the one that we just did. I also have an MP4 and a JPEG that I know I'm going to want to use in my project. So I'm going to go ahead and just select this one here. There's that. I'm going to select import media again. And I'm going to import those as well. You can see here, I'm looking at the clip bin right now. This is all of the files that I have prepared, to use in my project. They haven't been included yet. I will need to move them onto the video timeline, but it's nice to see that they do distinguish between the different file type, so you can easily see what it is that you've loaded in. I want to take my Camtasia Studio recording file. This is the lecture file that I recorded myself speaking over, and I'm going to drag it into my timeline. And by drag, I do mean drag. I'm going to just click it and drag it down into the video timeline. And you can see that that populates right there. Now let's take a closer look at what this area actually is. This is where you'll do any of the manipulation and editing of your video that you've created. All of the animations, zoom and pans, callouts, transitions, things like that will happen down here on different tracks. Now when I dragged my TREC file, it automatically bumped me into track 1 and track 2. That's because I had two different inputs for my audio. When I recorded myself, I had the screen and also what was being picked up by my external microphone and the system audio, which I didn't have any system audio to actually pick up. So there's nothing in this track, and I know that because I can't see any audio lines, and there's no little video preview box there to tell that there's any recorded video. You can also kind of see if you look on the far left end of those tracks, and I don't want to hover my mouse because it'll get a dialog box and you won't be able to see it, but you can see the music note. That just tells me that that is an audio only track. Looking at these tracks, there are some details here. One, if you look right on the right hand edge, you'll see two icons, one of which looks like an eyeball, and what that is that is the mute feature, so you can basically disable a whole track. Or you can click the padlock, and what that does is it will lock a track completely. You won't be able to edit it at all, which is nice if you don't want to accidentally use any manipulations or cut anything out. You want to protect the track, you can choose to lock it. In this case, I actually do want to delete this track, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select the track first, and I will note that my track is selected because it turns blue. This is how I know which clip is active in the system and what Camtasia is actually going to be looking at when I do anything to it. So it's blue, that's the one that I'm working with, and I'm just going to go ahead and click delete because I know there's nothing in this track and I don't need it. And you can see it disappears. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to move this down to track 1, and I'm just going to click and drag. You'll see very quickly as we continue along this demonstration that the click and drag is going to be how you manipulate a lot of things in Camtasia Studio. It's very visually based, which makes it really easy to use. It's very nice. Let's keep looking at the edit area here on the timeline. I do have my timeline ruler here along the top where I can see how long my video is. This clip in particular is 52 seconds long. I have a timeline marker here, which I can use to move along different places within my video. What this does is it moves you to a specific location, and then you can see where exactly it is that you are in the preview window here. This is your live preview of what your video will look like to your viewers. So as you add animations or if you cut things out, you can move your timeline marker to a specific place and then click play, and it will play along as that goes. That's the timeline marker. Let's take a look up here. The zoom in and zoom out will expand your video out to a great degree of detail, which is nice if you're doing very minute manipulations, if you're cutting out words, or if you just want to make a very small clip and it needs to be at a very specific place, you can do that. I do this frequently if I need to cut out my ums and ers or any filler words, then I might have in a lecture that's going to be posted on the web. You also have your undo and redo buttons right here, and then to the right of them you have things like cut and split. And if I am going to actually demonstrate what those are right now. So here on my timeline, let's just see if I move my timeline marker, I can see that my actual video, that my video content ends right here, which is at 26 seconds. So I don't need any of this bit here off of the end. What I can do is I can take the little red icon on the second side of my timeline marker, and I can drag that over any content that I want to clip out. And I'm actually going to go, let's say I'm just going to go to this point right here. And if I come up and I click on that scissors icon, what it's going to do is it's going to clip that right out of my video. If I move my marker over so you can kind of see, you get a little visual cue in your video track that will tell you that there has been content cut from that spot. But if I click on this, this is still one clip. It's not separated into two pieces. We've just taken that section that I didn't want and smooshed it out of the timeline. If I did want to separate the two clips, if I didn't necessarily want to delete one, but I did want to separate it to, say, insert new content, I could just as easily do that as well. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to select undo. Again, you'll notice that my track is blue. That means that's selected. That's the one that we're going to be working in. And then I'm going to come up and I'm going to click split. And what split does is it doesn't delete any content. What it does is it just separates them into two separate pieces. So you can move one up, you can layer them over each other, you can delete it entirely if you want to, which is what I'm actually going to do here in a second. A couple of things worth noting here, now that I've got two pieces, there are a couple of other edits that I can do. One of my favorites is to come and grab the end of a track, and if I hover my mouse until I get that double pointed arrow there, I can simply drag that over content until the video ends at a point where I would like. And the advantage here is that you can just drag that right back out when you're done. And point of fact, I do not need this section of the video, so I'm going to click delete on my keyboard and delete that from my timeline. And now I'm ready to move in my other content. Same exact process. I'm going to go ahead and click and drag down into my timeline. This is a still clip, and same thing with my video. Once you've loaded your videos into your timeline, you can start editing them. Some of the quick features are available through a right-click menu. So if I come down and I've selected one clip here, if I right-click with my mouse, I can see certain editing options. And what exactly these are will vary somewhat depending on what kind of clip it is, if it's a still image versus an MP4 versus a screen recorded. But for the most part, you'll get an idea of what some of the quick manipulations are. So you have your regular cut, copy and paste. You can delete. You can do manipulations to the audio, so you can edit the audio leveling, and we'll take a look at that in a little bit. You can adjust the clip speed, and you can do things like separate the audio and video. And I am going to do that just so I can demonstrate what it looks like to group clips. I don't actually need these separated, so I could just click the undo button and those would go back to being a single clip. Or I can come in, and if I right click, now I have the option to group them. And what that does is it just condenses them onto a single track. I find this useful once I've actually started adding animations and callouts and things like that, because that means if I need to scoot the clip or if I need to move everything, it goes together instead of having to move everything. It's just a nice way to not have to mess with my timings once I have them set. If I take a look at my still image and I right click, I also I still have my clip speed option here, but also duration. The still images will get dropped in at a set duration, which appears to be about 5 seconds. It is 5 seconds. If I want this to be longer or shorter, I can simply type in a time that I want that to be. So let's say I want this one to be 10 seconds, and then I will make it longer. The media library is a collection of different clips and callouts that are all kind of themed together that you can include in your videos. So they're sort of pre-built animations. So you have things like title slides, different callouts. Experiment with those if you like. I am actually going to delete this one. But what I do want to look at is the music. So this still image currently does not have any either speech or music covering it. It would be a 15-second or 10-second block of silence with an image. I want to include some audio on top of that, so I'm going to expand one of these And you can see under each is a full song, an intro, a long clip, a medium clip, and a short clip. You can preview what these sound like by double clicking on them. So it will play and I'll get an idea of what that looks like. It also tells me the duration. So I'm looking for something that's in the neighborhood of 10 seconds. This is 32, that's a little long, so I'm going to go ahead and open up. See that the short one is 19. Here, this one's better. Let's double click and see what that sounds like. Great, that'll work for me. To bring it onto my timeline, I'm going to click and drag. But I'm going to slide this over and you'll notice it wants to snap to the end of my clip. This is still 16 seconds over 10, so it's about 6 seconds of audio overlap onto my video here, which I don't want to do. So let's take a look at the audio features. And this is actually something that I wanted to bring in because my lecture capture, the audio is significantly louder than it is on this inserted video clip, and I can tell that because my audio lines are at a certain level on the clip itself, so this is going to be quite a bit louder than what's following it. And if I don't want the lecture equivalent of going to commercial break, I want to do some leveling here. As with everything else, to manipulate this on my timeline, all I need to do is hover my mouse over until I get that double pointed arrow. Let's see, there we go. And then I can just click that down and move it until it's at a more reasonable volume. And I'm going to do the same thing over here and bring this down until it's more in line with what I have in the following clip. There are all the things I can do. I do have the option to enable volume leveling, which will basically do what I just did. If you select multiple clips, it will take a look at the level of volume in each and make them more equitable. For this one, I want to fade out so that my inserted music is gone by the time my speaking in the next video starts. So I'm going to go ahead and click fade out. You can see the start of the fade starts here, it ends there. I want to move this over so that the fade out starts a lot sooner. So you know what, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip this. I'm going to make this shorter. So I'm going to grab the end and I'm going to drag it over until I hit the beginning of that clip. And now if I select fade out, my fade will start and I know that it will be done by the time I get to the end of my clip. So I can move this if I want a more dramatic fade out. I can make that long or I can make that fairly short. Let's see what this sounds like. I'm just going to move my timeline marker back a little bit and click play. I'd actually like that to be just a little bit long. Oops, a little bit longer. So I'm going to make that there. If I wanted to fade in so that I had a nice effect here, I could select the fade in option and move that there. So I should have a nice fade between the two clips.
We're in the Louvre at the top.
I like that. I'm going to keep it. So that's sort of what you can do with the clip library. Take advantage of the things that are in there. Let's take a look at some of the other tools that you have. We've kind of seen how we can adjust the clips just on the timeline using that the right click context menu to adjust clip speed and insert media items from the music library. But if you are like me and you're recording a lecture, you're recording a tutorial, some of the things that you'll use the most are actually down here. And we looked a little bit at audio when I clicked the audio button, which is how we got into this audio leveling. But let's take a look at zoom and pan. Zoom and pan lets you adjust the zoom feature on your screen. It's essentially like using the zoom feature on your camcorder. So I'm going to move my timeline marker over on my video until I'm at, okay, let's see. I would really like to get in a closer look at this particular shot. I want to scoot in closer to the statue. So I can click zoom and pan. And if I come over here looking at the left-hand side of the screen again, this is where your edits are going to be made. The manipulations will be here, which will affect the preview, and then you will see an icon appear in your timeline that'll tell you that that is where that particular animation is going to happen. So to zoom in, you can come up, and if you look, you've got these 4-way markers around your video, and that is where you can adjust the size, and the size is reflective of your zoom. It's where the focal area will be. I'm going to maintain the aspect ratio. I think that's just neater, I guess, but you are not required to do that. I'm going to come up and I'm just going to click at this until that's more like the size that I like. This is a little bit closer up now. I can see what's going on. So that's that. And if I look on my timeline, here is the little animation that I know that I have added a zoom and pan edit to my video. If I click on that, I'll know it's active because it'll change color, it'll be yellow. And if I look at this, I can do things like adjust how fast this animation runs or where exactly it occurs. For instance, if I wanted this to be a slow zoom in, I could grab the end and I could drag that out to whatever point that I wanted. Let's say about here. And if I decided I wanted it at a different point in my video, I could simply click on that and then move that onto a different location. I do like where this is though, so I'm going to let that be. If I move my timeline marker back and play it, you should be able to see the zoom in the preview.
Really large.
It's called an Ikeo-Samothrace because it was
There we
found.
go. That's how you can use zoom and pan. Now, I zoomed into this part of my video, but as we can see, if I move a little bit further along, I'm going to go into a map. And perhaps I don't want to be zoomed in on this part of my video. How do I snap back? If I come back into zoom and pan, I can either take my waypoints here and drag them out to the dimensions that I want, or I can simply click Scale Media to fit entire canvas, and it will pop that right back out to the edges. It does add an additional animation to my timeline, which means that I will get the zoom out, and since this is happening in a fade in the video clip, it's not actually that visible. I'm just going to drag that in until it's less of an extended animation. And that's how to zoom and pan. The next thing we'll look at are transitions. Transitions are simply visual effects to move you between clips. I'm going to drag this back over here so we can see I have, if I look at my video timeline, I have a couple of places where I can put a transition. And if I take one of these, let's just say let's do the fold. That looks interesting. If I select that and then I drag it down into my timeline, where I can insert it will be highlighted in yellow. You can't place a transition in the middle of a clip unless you split the clip. So it wants to go in between two different clips or at the very end or the very beginning of them. For this one, I'm going to drop it here, and when I do, you'll see that it adds that little animation icon onto my actual clip. If I zoom in a little bit, here we go, we can see that this is right here. If I put my timeline marker back, and this is a quick trick, you can click anywhere on the ruler and it will bring your marker over, which is handy. If I play this, that was what that animation looked like. And I think that went a little fast, personally, so I want to slow that down and make it a longer, smoother transition. So I'm going to come down, and I know that it's activated again because it's yellow. So when I hover my mouse, I'll get my two-way arrow, and I can drag that over a couple of seconds. So that will just mean that my animation will play slower. And if I preview that again, a couple years ago, I guess. So, and that's what that would look like in the video. And I decided, you know what, I don't really like the fold. I want to use a different one. So I'm going to click that again, click delete, and I'm just going to drag a new animation down onto my clips. And it will tell you to, you can see on the transition bar here itself which one you used. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to drag that out so it's slower. Let's see what that looks like. I think that's much better. The other primary button that you'll see here is callouts. And what callouts are they are buttons, animations, text, things that you can add to your video that will play on top of whatever it is that was originally recorded. So let's move to a place that I know I'm going to want to edit. Let's say here, where I've got my zoomed in image of the statue. And I want to select the clip so that it becomes live and editable. And then if I come over here on the left-hand side, I can see that I am ready to add a call out. And what exactly those are, if I expand this, you can see I have shapes with text. Those are shapes that you can drop in boxes where you can insert bits of text. So if you just wanted to add additional commentary to what was happening on the screen, you could do that. Shapes without text, and sketches, and then these special features, which we'll show here in a second. For this one here, let's take a look at the sketch. Let's say I want to highlight this area of the video right here. So I'm going to select my call out, and you'll notice immediately what it did is it dropped it onto my timeline. If I look at my video preview, I can see that there's a box here, and this will show me exactly where that's going to appear on the video. And I can move this. I can click and drag and put it onto whatever part of the video I want. I would like it to be drawn directly over the statue, so I'm going to center it there. And then if I look down here, I can see this represents a fade in, or in this case, the draw time for that shape, and then the fade out. And then if I see the duration there, it's 6 seconds. I know that I don't want that to be 6 seconds long. I want that to be about 3 seconds. So I'm going to change the number there, click enter, and it's going to immediately shorten that. If I want my fade in and fade out times to be shorter or longer, I can adjust them here. And you'll notice this gets longer or shorter as I draw or as I move my marker over. Same thing with a fade out. But I think that's good right about 1 second. So I'm going to leave that be. And if I move my marker back, you can see what that will look like.
The Nike of Samothrace because it was found on the island.
So as it happens, this particular animation sort of bleeds into the next part of the video. So I want to move it over a little bit on my timeline, and I can simply click and drag it until it's in a better place. And if I want to see what that looks like, again, I'll move my marker back, play.
It's called the Nike of Samothrace because it was found on the island.
And there we go. I'm actually going to shorten this fade out time so that that animation is fully gone by the time I've moved on to the next part of my screen. So that's one kind of call out. Those are the sketches. If I click on it again, you'll see I've still got the ability to move where that appears. So I can click and drag that to whatever location I want. Some of the other ones, let's go ahead and add a shape with text. Oops. And this is a good point here because I did want to demonstrate this. I mentioned this anyway. If you have an animation that is selected here on the timeline, notice that this is still blue, and you choose a different kind of call out, doing what I was just planning on doing, which was adding a second one, it will replace what you just made with your new selection. So I could click this and it would change. I want it to still be the sketch motion, so I'm just going to go ahead and select that back to the shape, and it will return it to what I had just done. To prevent that, I just need to click somewhere else on my timeline so that that animation is no longer selected, and then I can add a new one, and it will add it as a separate item to my timeline. In this case, it added it on track 3 because my timeline marker is right smack dab in the middle of the one that I just created, so it didn't have anywhere to go here, so it added it above. And this is how you can do layering of effects in your video. So let's move this one off to the side, and this has the ability to put text in, so I'm going to insert some sample text. just like that. You can do everything that you would normally be able to do with text. You can change the font into something more interesting, make it bold, change the size. You do want these to be large enough that they can be read generally. You can add effects to them. If I wanted to make that look like a button, I could do that. Anything of that sort. And then of course you can change the border and the fill colors. I'm not a big fan of the blue, so let's go purple. Always like purple. And then I'm also going to just manipulate the actual shape of that particular animation. So same deal with the fade in, fade out, and duration. 6.6 seconds, a little long for this. Let's just make it 4. And this is good, it slightly overlaps. So let's see what this looks like. I have my
It's
zoom
called
in,
the
my
Nike
sketch
because
motion,
it was found on the island in the north
and my text call out all playing on the screen at the same time. And you can see exactly where that is happening. Anytime you move your marker, you'll see what is appearing on the screen at that particular time. Here's my zoom in, there's my sketch, there's my text call out. Let's move to another place on the timeline, just at random. I'm going to zoom this out for a second. Take a look at some of the other ones. So I'm going to click anywhere on my timeline to deselect this. And I'm going to add the spotlight. If I click the spotlight, you can see right away what it does is it sort of mutes the rest of the screen. It gets that sort of dark, and except for what's in the selection area or what is in your spotlight, which is handy if you want to call attention to certain things. Again, you can adjust the size and shape of that exactly, the fade in, fade out time, or the intensity if you wanted it to completely black out whatever was on your screen, you can do that. I think a small fade is nice. One of the other ones that mentioned here is the blur. The blur is useful if you have sensitive information on your screen that you would like to hide from anyone who's watching the video. This might be student ID numbers or grades, things of that nature. Highlight simply adds a highlight. And then text, this is the opportunity to just insert regular text onto your video. And if you'll notice this, there is no text box behind that. There's no solid color behind it. So this is here, and again, you can change the color. You can change the, let's make this white and move it over into the black so that it would appear like that. The keystrokes are kind of nice. And what it does is it inserts a pattern of what is being read on your keyboard. So in the example here, Control V, if I selected my, I put my cursor in the keystroke, the thing about this is you have to type the keystroke as you would normally enter it. So you can't put Control and then V. If you want, for instance, Control Alt Delete, you have to click them on your keyboard at the exact same time, just like you would do if you were entering the keystroke. So those are your primary editing effects: callouts, zoom and pan, audio, and transitions. You also have the clip bin with your original inserted items, which now includes audio, or the clip library, which has all of those pre-built themes and musical clips. There are a couple of things that exist under the More tab. Cursor effects let you do things which will put in an effect any place that you make a click on your screen. Voice narration, this is a kind of a nice one. If instead of a musical clip that might have been playing over this still image, maybe I wanted to record myself speaking over it, I could record myself and it would use my internal microphone or the microphone that I had currently enabled to just create an audio file, which I would then be able to drop into my timeline. You can record the camera, so you can use your webcam. If you do have a script that you're working off of or captions that you've already created, you can paste them in using the captions editing features here. We have resources available to you in the e-learning department that will save you a ton of time in creating captions for your videos. So we would prefer that you got in touch with us once your video was already created and produced, and then we can help you get those captions created so that you don't have to do it yourself and it does not take up more of your teaching time. The last option is quizzing. You can add quiz questions into your video. You get the reports back to you in an email. This is a more, again, high-level kind of feature, so I'll probably do an additional video that talks about quizzing. Those are the options there. They're always available under more. The most recent one that you used will be right here. You can see there's the quizzing now. If I went back to transitions, I'd be right back where I started. The last thing that I want to demonstrate is how to produce and share. Producing and sharing is what will allow you to take your Camtasia project and save it in a format that will actually be viewable by other people. So how do I turn it from my TREC files, from my Cam project files, into an MP4, into a WMV or whatever? First thing I want to show you is saving. If I select Save Project, you'll notice it comes in and what it wants to save at is a Cam Proj. That's again, the Camtasia Studio proprietary file format for your project. I do highly recommend saving your projects, even if you do intend to produce them into a video format when you're done. Having those project files will allow you to come in and make minor edits to your video without having to re-record everything. It will open up exactly as you see it, as it currently is, with your whole editing area available. Say you misspoke, or you want to change a date, or you want to insert a clip that for the next term and you don't want to have to redo everything. You can just reopen your project file and it'll have everything there as you would like it to be. I am going to save this. I'm going to save this as Nike. I'm going to put it on my desktop. So now I've saved my project. Again, I'm here, I'm Nike. Now I'm ready to produce and share. Produce and share options are here at the top. If I click the drop-down menu, I can see some quick options here. If you have an account with an external video host, so something like Vimeo, Google Drive, YouTube, those can be integrated into your Camtasia Studio. If I select this, what it'll do is it'll ask me to log into my account, and then what it would do is it would save it to your channel. If you want to load this into your Blackboard course, which is what I'm going to demonstrate here, I want to save it as a video file. So I'm just going to go ahead and click the button there, and then I get my production wizard box. If I select the menu, I have my same options here, and if I look below, here are my options for MP4. And these have to do with the dimensions and production quality of your final video. Mostly I choose the 720p. I think that's a nice mix. It means most people will be able to see that in fine clarity, whether they're watching that on their phone, on a tablet, or on their computer monitor like I'm doing right now, and it will be perfectly clear. You can do custom production settings too, but these presets I think work just fine. So I'm going to select 720, and then if I click next, I can save it to a particular place. If you have Camtasia Studio installed, you'll have a Camtasia Studio folder in your My Documents folder, which is going to be where it wants to put things. You can always change the location. You can also have it launch the video after production and show your production results. Again, totally optional, not things that I see as necessary. So I'm just going ahead and click Finish. And you will get this little box here that says your rendering project, and it will render your video. Okay, so my video is rendered, and you'll see that once that video rendering little box that was on the screen finished, it reopened my project, so I don't need this at the moment. I can go ahead and minimize it, and I'm going to go into Blackboard. So here is my Blackboard, and I'm going to go into a sample course, and I'm going to go into any content area. And what I'm going to be demonstrating is how to upload your video as a Kaltura video item. If you're in your course and you're in the build content, you'll see a couple of things. You do have the ability to upload video files straight. I don't recommend doing this. The videos do not play very well. Blackboard is really not a streaming service and the way that YouTube or Kaltura is. So a much better option would be to select Kaltura Media. It's tied to your Blackboard account, so you can grab those videos from within any course of yours in Blackboard. So I'm going to select Kaltura Media, and I'm going to click the Add Media button over here. I'm going to select Upload Media, and what I will get is this little file uploader. If I click Browse, it's going to take me into my computer again, and I'm in the My Documents file, so I'm going to go to Camtasia Studio, and I'm going to search for my video, which is right here, the Nike folder, and look, there is the MP4 that we just created. If I select that and click Open, I can upload that, and it will take a couple of seconds, not very long because it's a fairly short video. And I can give it a title. I'm going to call mine The Nike of Salmon Thrice. Select Next, and what it's going to do is give me a thumbnail preview of my item, my viewing options as you would expect to see in Blackboard, and if I click Submit, in the content area that I originally went into, now I have this little thumbnail of my video, and if I select that, any user can watch the video that I just uploaded, and it will stream really well on any device, and it will be nice and quick, and it doesn't take up space in your class, and you can use it again and again and again. But that is the best way to get your videos that you have pre-made into your Blackboard course for your students to view.